Maximizing LinkedIn and Social Media for Your Brand, a cargo de Jorgen Sandberg, experto en reclutamiento a través de redes sociales. Jorgen es la segunda vez que visita la Universidad del Pacífico. En esta oportunidad ha venido a dictar unos talleres especializados en reclutamiento a través de redes sociales, ayer martes y hoy miércoles en la mañana. Han venido cerca de 18 empresas de distintos rubros, de minería, de banca, de construcción, consumo masivo e incluso algunos headhunters a capacitarse. Muy interesante ver que además de LinkedIn usan otras redes sociales como Facebook o Twitter para reclutar. Y bueno, en esta conferencia puntualmente él va a hablar de cómo podemos usar las redes para mejorar nuestra visibilidad en el mercado laboral y también como una herramienta para gestionar nuestro marketing personal. Entonces, damos inicio a la conferencia. Los dejo con el experto en LinkedIn, Jorgen Sandberg.
Thank you, Karen, and welcome to this evening's talk about LinkedIn. So my name is Jorgen, and I will be talking to you for about an hour and a half about using LinkedIn for job search and career management. Obviously, I'm speaking English, and I know some of you will be listening to this in Spanish. If you feel that you want to ask a question, you have two options. You can either write down questions on, I think you were handed pieces of paper to write questions on, or just put your hand up and ask the question. I'm very happy for you to ask questions whilst I'm talking. And feel free to ask a question in English or in Spanish, because I have this headset here, so the interpreter will interpret from Spanish to English for me. Okay. Right, so that's me, and I was a recruiter for 7 years, recruiting IT experts, based in London, but recruiting people all over Europe. So recruiting SAP specialists, SAP experts. And in that job, I was a headhunter there. In that job, we used to use social media very extensively, and in particular, LinkedIn. So we used LinkedIn to find new candidates and also to find clients and to match the two, because as a headhunter, when you find the match, that's when you get paid. So that's what we did extensively at that company. I started, in my last year as a recruiter, I started writing a blog called The Undercover Recruiter. And that blog is still going, and it's the #1 recruiting blog in Europe. And after starting that blog, companies started contacting me saying, oh, can you help us to recruit? Can you help us to use social media, to do employer branding and so on? And so we started a company called Link Humans, which is, that's what we do. We're consultants and trainers based in the UK. And finally, we are also official partners with LinkedIn. So we help LinkedIn to do consulting and training. So hopefully I will have some insider knowledge for you today. Those are some of the clients that we work with. Some of these companies might be familiar to you, some may not. But in general, we work with large international corporations. Okay, so I want to understand about you, the audience. So hands up, who is still a student currently? Okay, so about 30%. So who is an alumnus? So that will be the rest. Okay. And who is not a student or alumni? Yeah? So what do you do then? Something else? Okay. Are you happy in your job? Yeah? Who wants a new job? Yeah? Okay. So Karen was telling me earlier that a lot of professionals in Lima, they want new jobs. because it's very competitive out there, and everyone wants to strive to the top. So I think it's healthy to always look at the next job and to always look after your career. So don't blame you. And my first question is everyone from Peru? Is anyone not from Peru? I am not from Peru, so okay, a handful of people. Who wants to work outside of Peru? Okay, quite a lot of people. Good. LinkedIn experience. Who would say that they are an expert on using LinkedIn? No? Yes? So, a couple of experts. Who is intermediate? And who is an absolute beginner? Okay. Who has no LinkedIn account? Okay. So one person. Great. So if we look at social media, the bigger picture, this is a graph which I found this morning, actually, which is brand new. And it's very, very hard to see here, but it talks about all the social networks which are available. And nowadays, there are over 1,000, well, more than 1,000 social networks. Everything from Facebook to Pinterest to Twitter to Flickr to YouTube, etc. But if we look at career and business, LinkedIn is definitely the number one, the number one network which we should look at. And I think LinkedIn is. So that's the landscape. And if we look at social media for job search, nowadays, these are stats from the US, from Estados Unidos, which is always a pioneering country when it comes to social media. But if you look here, because so many people use social media nowadays, it's only natural for them to use social media for job search. They use it for looking for friends. They use it for maybe looking at education, looking at what to do on the weekend, and they look at jobs. So it's a natural part of what we do every day, and that's why social media is useful. And if we look at social recruiting, so when earlier today I was working with, training recruiters, HR people here in Lima, and all of them use LinkedIn, for instance. Most of them use Twitter or Facebook for recruiting purposes as well. These are the stats from a big survey called, the company is called JobVite. They look at 500 corporations around the world and look at if they use social media for recruitment purposes. And every year, the number goes up. So last year it was 93%, I believe, 92. And we have not got the stats for this year yet, but I would not be surprised if it's 95% or even closer to 100%. And obviously these are the top networks. Again, that emphasizes how important LinkedIn is compared to the others. When we look at recruiting, LinkedIn is useful for most type of recruiting. Facebook is useful for what they call campus recruiting, so hiring graduates, so young professionals. So perhaps if you're an MBA, you're probably one step above that already. And I was talking to the recruiters earlier today as well about the benefits of using social media for corporations. So that there are lots of benefits for them. But I think the number one benefit for them is that they can connect with what they call passive candidates. So that means people who aren't necessarily looking for a job right now. So you might be very happy in your job, but you might still be interested in looking at other companies. You know, what are they up to? What will they be hiring next year? What type of products are they bringing out? So taking an interest in other companies doesn't mean that you desperately want to join them. It's more about establishing a relationship, opening lines of communications, maybe connecting to some people there. And when you do need to move, you already have that those contacts in place. And that's what the companies want to do. So that's the main benefit for them. And obviously another one is they lower the cost of sourcing, meaning they can save a lot of money here. So typically, historically, when a large corporation wanted to recruit people, they had to either advertise, so in newspapers or the radio or big posters and so on, which cost a lot of money, or they had to use headhunters, which also cost a lot of money. Now, you have the third pillar, they can use social media, which is, well, there is a small cost attached to it, but much less than headhunters or advertising. So companies can save a lot of money, I should say. Okay, so I hope you're convinced about how fantastic social media is and how it can be used for careers. LinkedIn. Why should you be using LinkedIn? Well, there's several reasons, but I think that probably one of the strongest reasons for using LinkedIn is the first pillar there, which is identity. And that means when somebody Googles you, somebody that doesn't know you, they were given your name, or maybe you send them an email, or you leave a voicemail on their telephone, and they go, who's this person? They just tap your name into Google, and if you have a LinkedIn profile, that 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be the first search result. Can you relate to that? Have you Googled yourselves? Yeah? Sometimes it's maybe your Twitter. Sometimes it's if you have a website which carries your own name. Maybe that comes up first. But normally, it's your LinkedIn profile. So that way, you can really take control of your personal brand. Make sure that people find what you want them to find. And then obviously the other benefits are networking and insights, just learning more about companies and industries and so on. And what's not on doesn't even, it's implicit on there, it's the job search. Okay, so we look at some statistics. LinkedIn is the world's largest company database, so it has over 3 million companies on there. So when anyone can set up a company on LinkedIn, I think when more than 3 people say that they work for the same place, it auto-generates a new company. What else have we got? So groups, is anyone a member of groups? Yeah. So the groups, there are over 1.7 million groups nowadays. Bless you. So it's getting very competitive out there. So many groups that want you to join them and to be active in them. People searches. Last year, there were 5.3 billion searches made. That means almost one search for every person on this planet last year. So that means a lot of recruiters are running a lot of searches every day, which means if you have the right profile, if you have the right keywords on your profile, if you're connected to the right people, you can be found in one of these searches and perhaps approached for an interesting job. And some of the other stats there, average age 41, that's internationally. Average salary, that's for the US again. So it might not be representative of Peru, for instance, but what we can learn from that is that it's fairly well-to-do people on LinkedIn. So if you look at the demographic, it's a highly professional demographic, and the average user has 60 connections. Does anyone have more than 60 connections? Does anyone have more than 500? Yay. Anyone more than 1,000? Okay, 5,000. Yes? Okay, 10,000. No? So how many do you have? 5,700? Yeah. Wow. Well done. And you're a recruiter? Yeah. Of course. Okay. And if we look at the global figures, So we have 225 million users on LinkedIn in the world. 2 new members join every second, which is the same rate as Facebook. So it's growing very, very quick. And the most users are, there's no surprise here, they're in North America, in the US. It's a very saturated market. Number 2 is Europe, then Asia, and then South America. And let's have a look at America. So there we find Peru with 1.6 million users, which is pretty good. I think so Mexico and Brazil and Argentina will have more, the bigger countries. And I also want to show you just Europe, because I know some of you might be interested in, I don't know, have some exchange with Spain, for instance. There are 5 million LinkedIn users in Spain. So for recruiters here who are looking for people in Spain, LinkedIn can be an absolute goldmine. And where I'm from, UK, we have the most LinkedIn users in Europe, so 13 million. Actually, in the UK, we have 4 out of 5 professionals use LinkedIn. So a very, very high penetration. Okay, so let's have a look at profiles. So profiles is really where it all starts. So you sign up, your first task is to really make a good profile, so that people go onto your profile and they're impressed and they go, interesting, I want to learn more, I want to contact this person. I like to ask this question. Where do you think people look first on your profile? Picture? Any other bids? Say again? Headline? Okay, someone's heard me talking before. Yes, so what she referred to there is, you see where it says community manager underneath the name? So author and then community manager. That's what's called a headline. And the headline is something that you can customize. So you have 120 characters, you can write whatever you like, not just your job title. And so this guy is a colleague, by the way. Here is the heat map. This is what people look at on your profile. So a company called iTrackShop, they've looked at, I think, 300 people, just looking at their eyeballs, where they look. So in general, we can see that it's the top left of the profile is the most important. So picture, yes, but headline is actually even more important. And because LinkedIn, we have in Peru 1.6 million people on there, it's very competitive. Recruiters, they will look at your profile for a millisecond, and then they look at the next one and the next one. So you really have to have an impact and to capture people straight away. So think about that. The top left is the most important. If they don't like what they see top left, they're not going to scroll down and look at the rest. So if we look at picture first of all, has everyone in here got a photo on their LinkedIn profile? Who has not got one? Yeah, 1, 2, a few people. Okay, just by having a photo, you are 7 times more likely to be found in searches because you get a better score in the rankings. So it's really important just to have a picture. And any picture will do. So it could be a logo from your company. It could be a picture of your cat or whatever. Doesn't matter. So you will come up. So that's the first thing you want to do, a picture. Number 2 is you want to have a good picture. So that's how not to do it. So you want to have a professional photo. If you are an accountant, for instance, you want to wear a suit and a tie. Whoops. If you are creative, if you're an art director or something, then you can look a little bit more cool and so on. But it's about reflecting your professional brand and how you would look when you go to meet a new client, for instance. That's how you should look on LinkedIn. And yeah, and a lot of people seem to do this as well. They take a photo of themselves like this. Don't do that. Get a friend to take a photo. Headlines. Okay, so here are 4 people. 3 people have photos, not the top one. So we can see Peter, that's the name. Number 2, that partner at Gerald Eve, that's the headline. Surveyor at Gerald Eve, that's the headline. Partner, senior surveyor. So these are all people working for the same company in London. They're working real estate. I think these guys could do a lot better. They could flesh out their headlines and really say what they do. At the moment, all they say is their job title, surveyor. Or it could be project manager. It could be assistant, partner, blah, blah, blah. So it's much more important to flesh out. So here's the comparison. So these are competitors, the people on the previous page. So yes, the first guy started as manager, but then he says real estate valuation, chartered valuation, surveyor, and Ernst & Young. So he's fleshed out, he's given some keywords, he gives us a better idea of what he does, and also where he is, Ernst & Young, which is a good brand. So if you have a good brand to show off, put it on there. So this university, postgraduate school, it's the best one in Peru, yes? Yeah, so you can put that in your headline. And MBA from the postgraduate school, etc. So I would try to put my title and then something about yourself, something that you do, or something about your company. If there is a slogan, a tagline about the company, you can add that. So that way you're also a good ambassador for your company. Summaries. So if we move down the profile, we have summaries. And this is where you should fill in some information about yourselves. So try to write 2 to 3 paragraphs, something about perhaps something personal, how you got into the job you were at. Very importantly, what you do, how you can help the customer, the client, your next employer, and so on. If you can mention clients you worked with, people you worked with, projects you worked on, that's really important. Brands, and anything you can name drop, it will work, trust me. And also, as the arrow indicates there at the bottom, it's very important to put your contact details on there. Because on LinkedIn, not everybody wants to connect with you and become your connection, not straight away, but they may want to send you an email. They might want to call you. So give them the option. Give them the different ways of connecting with you. Fairly recently as well, LinkedIn have now started allowing you to add media files onto your summary and other places on your profile. So I'm going to demonstrate how that looks. Okay, so this guy here, he's a marketing director in Singapore. And so that's his normal summary. But then if you scroll down a bit, he also has this. So that's a video, that's I think a PowerPoint presentation, that's another video, no, that's Facebook. And he's put a lot of these things on there. That's a video with him, and so on. So kind of like a portfolio. So if I click here, this is his boss, a video there.
The topic that we're discussing is unfair labor and some of the challenges of unfair labor.
Yeah, and so it's basically just a video, a corporate video, which showcases a bit more about the company and so on, which is great if you want to be an ambassador of your company. However, if you want to be an ambassador of yourself, if you want to promote yourself, then perhaps put a video of you when you're talking. So someone's shooting a video of me, I can put that video on my LinkedIn profile once it's been edited. So if you have any YouTube clips, if you have any presentations that you have given, PowerPoint presentations, you can put that up. If you have done a brochure, PDF documents, anything, put it on there. Because that will make you stand out and make it look much more interesting. I think on LinkedIn, people have reading fatigue. I know I'm sick of reading long texts about people and so on, but if I see a video, if I see an image, that to me is much more interesting, and that stands out. So try to be visual. And on this, when you write your summary, any text you write on LinkedIn, make sure that you use your own language, your own words, and don't try to copy other people, and don't try to use these type of buzzwords here. Don't be creative or team working, motivated, and all those things, because it sounds like you've copied and pasted somebody else's CV. So I don't think Peru is on here, but I guess Brazil, multinational. Okay, so we move down the profile, and we have previous jobs, the previous experience. It's very, very important that you fill in your previous jobs. For one, recruiters will check. Recruiters love to look at dates and see, they'll ask you, why did you stop working there in February and then you started working in April? What happened in March? And so on. So make sure it's absolutely correct. And if there are any gaps in your career history, then you need to have the answers ready, that you went traveling for a month to Australia, for instance. But the experience is really important, because you put the company you worked for on there. The logo will then appear. When you have that on your profile, you're then able to connect with everyone inside that company, because you're then an alumni of that company. So let's say it was IBM, then you have about 500,000 people on LinkedIn who are also either currently working there or they're alumni of IBM. So you can connect with all of them. So if you work for big companies, then that's a huge benefit for you. And what I also wanted to mention is the recommendations. How many in here, who has recommendations on their profile? Great. Who has more than 5? And who has more than 10? Okay, 20? Yeah? How many do you have? 25. Okay, that's good going. I would recommend to perhaps aim to get somewhere between 5 and 10. What should I say? The more senior you are in your career, the more recommendations you should have. If you're in your first or second job, then it's fine to have maybe 1 or 2. But ideally, you want to get 2 recommendations for each position you've had, because when people scroll down your profile, the 2 most recent recommendations will be visible against each role. So that's why the 2 are very important for each position. And so let's say you have 25 recommendations. To me, that's a bit too many. And I think a recruiter, if they see 25, they're only going to read the top 3 or the top 5 maybe. So that could be a case for selecting which ones you want to keep. So you can hide recommendations. So I think I have something like 30, but I only show 10 on my profile. And when I get a better one, then I hide one of the weakest one of the 10 and put a new one in. So always keep it fresh and relevant. Okay, have you seen endorsements? No? So endorsements were launched, I think, in September last year, or October. And endorsements are one-click recommendations. So if you add skills on your profile, anyone, well, not anyone who's connected to you can go in and click, say, yes, I endorse this person for this, and that. So it's like a recommendation light. Recommendation takes effort. You have to write, you have to think about it, and so on. Endorsement, it's just very quick. Click, 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 click. And some people will say, okay, well, endorsements, they don't mean anything. But they're nicely visually represented on your profile. So if someone wants to get a quick snapshot for what you can do, they can look at the endorsements. And if a recruiter is looking at 2 candidates, 2 accountants, both have equal degrees, both work for very good accounting firms, one has 15 endorsements from his colleagues and peers, one has 0, then this person will be favored. So it can tip the balance. And I think it's important to think about what skills you want to have on your profile. Again, I would recommend just to have maybe 5 or 10. You can have up to 50, but I think it looks very messy on your profile. It's better to have it focused, because that discourages people from giving you, all these random endorsements. So this person here, real estate, that's probably what they are best at. So they probably want more endorsements for real estate than they want for due diligence, which is at the bottom. So that's about 10 skills. But let's say they have 50 skills. There is no point to have skills with 1 or 2 endorsements. You want to have 10, 20, 30. So that's why it's better to be focused. And also, I'm sure someone now is thinking, endorsements. If someone gives me an endorsement, do I have to give an endorsement back? Do I have to reciprocate? And I say no. Just like with recommendations, do not reciprocate. Instead, if someone gives you endorsement, you can say, yeah, thank you. But it doesn't automatically mean that you should give them anything back. It doesn't look good if you give them back. Instead, what they, you know what they say, pay it forward. Give an endorsement to someone else, random, someone who you know, someone who's good, but who's not expecting it. So that's a better way of doing it. Okay, so remember last year there were over 5 billion people searches done on LinkedIn. In order to be found, you have to put keywords on your profile. And you have to be well connected. This is a guy whose example I like using. He's an SAP recruiter, which I used to be. And he's based in Holland, Amsterdam. And as we can see, he's used the word SAP many times on his profile. And he's used SAP in different, different phrases. So kind of synonyms. So resource, delivery, recruiter, what else is he saying? Recruitment company, contract recruitment. And if we look down at his profile, there'll be more variations of the same. And this is because he knows that the LinkedIn search engine is not very clever. It's not like Google. Google knows when you're trying to manipulate it. In this case, LinkedIn, they just go, he's mentioned the word SAP 23 times. That means he must be very relevant for SAP. So they send him up the search rankings. And just to illustrate how it works, if I search for SAP recruiter, Mr. Patel here, he's always number 1. And that is out of 24,000 results. So the lesson learned here is that you guys can all do the same. You can just have a look at the keywords in your industry, You can have a look at keywords at job specifications, keywords particular companies you want to join, and copy those. Do the top 10 keywords, top 15 keywords, sprinkle them into your summary, somewhere here and there on your profile. And you don't have to make it look so obvious like this guy. I don't think it looks very professional. So try to keep a balance between professionalism and keyword stuffing. But put that on there, and you will find that you will rank better than probably 95% of your peers, of your colleagues in your industry, because very few people actually think about this. So do your update, and then you can see, you know, on your profile, you can see how many people have looked on your profile, and you can see some statistics like that. So you can see if it works. This was somebody who came to one of our workshops in London in January this year, and he changed to his profile, put lots of keywords on, put names of companies, brands, people, and so on, and that was the ranking. That's what happened. So when I saw that, I said, okay, send me a screenshot, because that's fairly drastic. Okay, so privacy settings. Now, I've done 2 workshops in 2 days, and no one seems to have any issues with privacy on LinkedIn. Do you guys have any questions on privacy? No? Very straightforward? Do you all understand how it works with when people look on your profile? Yeah? So it's a reciprocal setting. So meaning, myself though, I have full visibility. So if I look on your profile, you will see that I've been on your profile. And when you look at mine, I will see that you've been on mine. However, if I change it to anonymous, that means you will not see when I look in your profile. You just see somebody looked in your profile. But in return, I can't see who looks at my profile then. So whatever setting you set for others will be set for you. I would recommend always to have it open like that, especially when you're a job seeker. It's very interesting to see if recruiters look at you. If you have 100 recruiters looking at your profile, but nobody contacts you, then there's a conversion problem there. They obviously see something they don't like. So you can have a look at those type of stats. Does anyone have an upgraded LinkedIn account? Yeah? Okay, and do you find benefits from it? Good, yeah? All right, so these are actually more recruitment related. There are 3 sets of upgraded accounts, or premium accounts. One is the recruitment ones, one are the business ones, which are sales orientated, and one is they call, I think, Job Seeker Plus. But they all do very similar things. And basically what they do is they allow you to see more people on LinkedIn. So you can see third degree connections. You can see a bit their full profiles. You can also send what's called in-mails. It means you can send messages on LinkedIn to people you're not connected with. And you can also see a bit more analytics on who's looked on your profile and so on. But I normally get asked, every workshop I do, I get asked, oh, should I upgrade? Is it worth the money? And I say, normally, 95% of the cases, it's not worth upgrading. It's only if you really know what you're doing on LinkedIn, if you have mastered the free version of LinkedIn, then it could be worth upgrading. But I think LinkedIn, there's so much free, so many free features that you should really try and explore before you start paying. So just paying for an account on LinkedIn is not what they would call a silver bullet. It's not a quick fix. So in general, I would discourage it. Okay, so instead, I would try to connect more with people. So we have signed up to LinkedIn. We have a very nice profile with lots of keywords and all those things. Now, the next thing we need to do is start connecting with more people. Because the more people we connect with, the more people can then find us in searches. And also, the more people we can find when we do searches. Because this is how it works. It's similar to Facebook. You know, on Facebook you can see your friends' profiles, and sometimes the friends of friends. Here it's connections, 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 but no more. However, it is very exponential here. So if you add 1 or 2 more first level connections, that could add, that adds thousands more into your network. So just from having 700 connections, you're able to see about 7 million people. So every person you connect with will open up your network a lot. And if you connect with someone who's well connected, so the lady here who has 5,000 connections, if you connect with her, then you might even add, 200,000 people straight away. So that's why, for instance, it's very important to connect with people who are well connected. And the typical people who are well connected will be recruiters, salespeople, marketers, managers, and so on. People who use LinkedIn a lot. If you connect to them, that's going to help you. And if you're new to LinkedIn, for the gentleman that hasn't signed up yet, if you start LinkedIn today, the first thing you want to do is to connect with what they call an offline network. So people you already know. So friends, family, colleagues, customers, etc. People that are like the low-hanging fruit. They were happy to connect with you straight away. That's where you want to start. But then anyone else you're dealing with on a professional basis, you should connect with, even competitors. Because from a career management perspective, someone can be a competitor today, but they can be your employer tomorrow. So it's important to network. And do you know what lions are? Lion? I think the lady here, she's a lion. The lady with 5,000 connections. So lion, sometimes you can see on someone's profile, it says lion. So Jürgen Sundberg, lion. That means LinkedIn open networker. So somebody who accepts invites from anyone. So completely open networker. And the benefit of being that is, of course, that you expand your network and you get more influence on LinkedIn. And the benefit to you, if you want to connect with, let's say you want to connect with people in Argentina, but you have no network, what you can do is you can search for lions, find 10 people who are lions in Buenos Aires, connect with them, they will happily accept your connections, and suddenly you have 50,000 connections in Argentina. So it's a really quick way of doing it. And I guess the drawback is that it's harder to manage your network. If you start connecting with people you don't really know, it can get a bit out of control sometimes. I know because I have a lot of connections too, and I don't know half of them probably. So it's harder to manage. Also, a really quick way of adding more connections is to use the email option. So when you sign up, LinkedIn normally prompts you to do this, but you can go back any time and just have a look at these options, and it will scan Gmail or your Outlook, Hotmail, etc. There's a really quick way. It'll tell you these people are already on LinkedIn. Do you want to send them an invite? Click yes, and it's really quick. Do you know this screen? People you may know? Yeah, it's similar on Facebook. So LinkedIn have an algorithm, and they match you up to people who you have in common with others and so on. That can be a really useful screen if you want to connect with people quickly, especially, okay, let's have a look here. So Paul Drew Online Marketing, a very commercial title there. We have 73 shared connections. If I click connect, I am 99% certain he will accept. But if I send it to Alan, for instance, we have 12 shared connections. He's still 80% sure to connect with me. But if we only had one connection in common, then you have to be a bit more careful, because then they might reply and say, who are you? Why are you connecting with me? So you have to take a bit more care and personalize things a bit more. Right, so etiquette. The best practice on LinkedIn is to always try to personalize your invites, to write a personalized message, and to say why you are connecting with someone, how you can help them, that you'd like to have a coffee with them one day, etc., who you know in common and all those things. Obviously, if you know someone already, you don't have to bother, you can just send the invite. But if you don't know them, if they're senior people, if it's a CEO, if it's a CFO, then you have to be very careful and write something really good and compelling. Otherwise, they will just say, no, spam. Because you only get one chance. And if you burn that, that's it. So it says up here, avoid IDK. And IDK, it means I don't know. You know when someone sends you an invite, they say you can accept or you can ignore. If you click ignore, LinkedIn will then say, do you know this person? If you click no, I don't know them, then if that happens 5 times, LinkedIn will then suspend that person's account. So I'm saying you cannot send any more invites. And the only way they can lift that suspension is to talk to customer services, and it's a long process and so on. So you don't want to be that person that gets suspended. So be careful and write a nice personal message. And here's a couple of examples which we looked at earlier today, actually. This is someone that sent me an invite. Someone, first of all, they indicated that we are friends. I don't know who they are. They have a cartoon picture, and it says instant payday loan. So it sounds like they're selling me something, and they want to connect. So in this case, I just said, no, I don't know them, delete straight away. This one here is, in my book, is slightly better. Somebody who has a decent picture. The headline kind of explains what she does. Okay, she's also indicated we are friends. We are not really friends, but she has written something personal just to say that we connected on Twitter, which is very likely because I'm active on Twitter. So I then know, okay, Twitter, fine, accept. That's all it takes, really. So, for instance, after today, if you want to connect with me, just say, oh yeah, so saw you at the university last night, let's connect. So just so, like a quick reminder, so I know, okay, you were in the audience, perfect. That's all it takes. Yes, so here is a finance director, so a CFO, and a senior person who only has about 50 connections, which means if I want to connect with this person, I have to impress them. Finance directors, they get people calling them, people emailing them, faxing them, etc., selling all types of products, services, solutions, blah, blah, blah. So they're very guarded. So they don't want to connect with new people. So in this case, we have to do something very, very personal, or at least show that we care about them. And I look at this guy's profile, and I can see that we have two things in common. You can see this on the right-hand sidebar on anyone's profile. The first thing is location, so we both live in London. The second thing is we're in the same group. Yeah, remember those groups. So, to me, being in the same group is the best way of connecting with people, because if you don't know them, you can't say, oh, we're friends, we've done business, we're colleagues, because that will be completely wrong. However, if we're in the same group, we already have some sort of affinity, we have something in common. I can then click the group option, and I can write something. Oh, I saw you in the group, really interested in your report or event, blah, 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 and then click send. And 9 out of 10 people will accept it when it comes from the group option. So your best bet is really to try to join the big groups, the groups that your target audience will be in, and connect via groups. And believe me, this is how recruiters do it every day. Okay, so I wanted to try and find someone live. So what I did here was just search for HR director in Peru, and I found 39 people. So, for instance, if you're a job seeker, you might want to connect with an HR director because they will know all the jobs inside a company. Okay, so who's looking for a job? Yeah. Okay. Do you know who you want to connect with? Yeah. Okay. So you want to connect with headhunters? Okay. So the first thing you want to do is, so if this is normal LinkedIn here, you want to click on this thing there, advanced. And then a search screen appears. Okay, then I can write headhunter, Peru. So I will start with this, headhunter in Peru. That brought up 25 people for me. So my network in Peru is not brilliant. If I did the same in London, for instance, it might be 1,000 people. But that's people calling themselves headhunter. There will also be, so that's headhunter. What else could they call themselves? Recruiter or consultant? Researcher. Okay. So just like recruiters do, what they do is they use synonyms. A lot more. So they use synonyms. So researcher, consultant, headhunter, recruiter, HR, and they see what works. And I believe you can also, so for instance here, you can go industry, staffing, recruiting. So that's now to 15 results. Human resources. So this way we can exclude if someone is a researcher for a magazine, for instance, or a news researcher. So these are headhunters and recruiters. And we can even have a look at company. So Adecco, Laborum, Downing Teal, etc. So it will give you the companies. They're called headhunters. Peru? No. AMRUP? Oh, there it is, AMRUP. So 5 people from AMRUP. Marie Monnier. So this is how easy it is to find people on LinkedIn. You can all do these searches. Recruiters and headhunters, they're exceptionally easy to find because they want to be found. Because they're out there, they have to be accessible and so on. If you look for CEOs, HR directors and so on, it could be slightly more difficult, but they are on here. Everyone is on here who wants to have, you know, a good career. Okay, can we try another one? Does anyone have a target company they want to work for? A big company? Human research. No. I want a big company. Say again? SABMiller. Okay. So SABMiller is the brewery giant. Okay. So what we can do here is to go to, you want them to be in Peru? Yes. Yeah. So I would just start with, just do a search for everyone in Peru. And then I would go to company. I think it's like that. Yeah.
If there is 1.6 million people, would you just search from Peru and just appear 65 subjects?
Good question. That's because that's limited to my network. So, yes, so I only have access to them. Yes, correct, so 3 degrees. But if somebody has 5,000 connections inside Peru, then you probably can see maybe 500,000 or 1 million. So that's the difference. Okay, so SABMiller in Peru, with my network, I can see 200 people. Actually, that's more accurate, 52 people. Because sometimes if you search for the word SABMiller, that means the word SABMiller will be somewhere on someone's profile. So it could be previous job, it could be I worked with SABMiller as a client, I was an intern at SABMiller in the 80s. I like SABMiller as a company. But if you then go click on here, where was it? Current company SABMiller, then we know that they currently work there. 52 people. And then from here, we can just go through and see what's relevant. So what type of position do you want there? Purchasing. Okay, so purchasing. So only one person left, 1 second. But this guy is the Regional Procurement and Management Director at SABMiller. So he knows everything about purchasing. Okay, perhaps he has a very big scope, his role, because he has all of Latin America. But if you contact him, he can say, this person is responsible in Peru. This is the team of purchasing people. Have a chat. So that's how we do it. Yes, sir.
But the results could be changed if we put the word in Spanish?
Yes, of course. Yeah, so again, you have to think with synonyms. So I did purchasing. What's the... Compras. Like that?
C-O-M-P-R-A-S.
Like that. Compras. Okay, we see. So now we have 3. Although I still think the previous guy, he's the top boss. These people are somehow related to purchasing. But yeah, that's a very good tip. So that, again, that's what recruiters do. We did earlier today in this workshop, we look for engineer, but also ingeniero, correct? So you have to think with synonyms, and people call themselves different things, but they do exactly the same thing. And that's the dilemma for recruiters normally. Yeah.
About the language, you can have, let's say, here in Peru usually, or you can do Spanish and English. What you are going to look at mine, how is going to work the system in LinkedIn, that you are going to look at mine in English or you are going to look at mine in Spanish?
Okay, so you can set your default profile.
Let's say my default is in Spanish.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, so I believe I will see it in Spanish then. We can have a look. What's your name?
Rómulo Gallo. R-M-U-L-O. You're right, no, R-O.
Romulo.
Right? Gallo, G-A-L-L-O. The last name. Gallo, G-A-L-L-O. That's it. Rómulo Gallo Corazao. Right.
Okay.
But it's in
English.
It's in English.
So I have the option here of looking at Spanish or English.
Okay, so that means that because yours maybe is on default on English,
Yeah.
your system track immediately if there is one in English.
Yes.
This will come first.
Yeah. So I think I'm not quite sure, but I think it's because you have both options. But if you had only a Spanish profile, then I would see Spanish. But
right.
You have both. I see my default, which is English.
Right.
So that's good.
Okay. Good to know. And about the picture is terrible. I think so.
So the picture is okay, but it's too small.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Can I do another one on this one? Okay, about the picture. Yes, it's terrible because of the pixels, the size. Okay, it's getting there. But my question is on this one. As you mentioned, this guy, or you show us on the example, the guy from London.
Yep.
And I remember the SAP recruiter guy. So it's an excellent in terms of you are going to find if you are looking for someone in SAP. But on the other hand, you see a guy sailing on a boat. And I don't know, maybe in the UK, that's, okay, this guy have a life. But maybe in Latin America, on the States, you know, no, you will like somebody in suit because he's a formal guy and he's not thinking on the beach in a different way.
Yeah.
You mean what?
Yeah. So,
and I have seen many US profiles, very top highs in US company, maybe not Europeans, but they have their suit picture with a suit, very formal, with a one color back panel. So what do you think or recommend to us?
I think you have to know your target audience. And the guy on the sailing boat, okay, it's a bit of a jokey picture, and his whole profile is not very professional, but he owns his own company. So
that's a reason.
He's a rich guy, he doesn't care.
Yeah, okay, that's a reason.
So he's not looking for a job. But yeah, it's about knowing your target audience. If you want to impress HR people, recruiters and so on, yes, have a good formal picture.
Okay.
And if you're wearing a tie, which is probably how you look in a sales meeting and so on. So if that's what you wear in the office, that's what you should have on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
Okay, so Romulo, now I will then do connect. So Romulo and I, we are in the same group, Harvard Business Review. We both went to Harvard, same time. Yeah. And so now I can go, hello, Romulo. Nice tie today. Something like that. Okay. But if we go back to my search, this guy here, Carlos, who is the Latin American regional procurement, blah, blah, blah. In this case here, I would have to be, the difficulty here is we're not in the same group. So I would have to say other or done business with and so on, and I really have to explain why I'm connecting. I think the best way to connect with this guy is probably to look at what groups he's in. So if we go back to Carlos, I would join one of these groups. It's like maybe a procurement group, if that's what you're interested in doing, or a brewery, beer group. Join that and then connect with them. That's the best way of doing it. And you can be a member of up to 50 groups. So I am already a member of 50 groups, so I can't join anymore. But those are the groups I'm a member of. And talking about groups, there is one group which everybody should join, and it's this one here, Linked HR. It has, I'll show you the statistics. So it has over 800,000 group members, and they're all related to HR, recruitment, and so on. So about half the recruiters that I train, they are members of this group. So if you join this group, they will then get access to you. They can send you messages through the group. They can connect with you direct and so on. So that really puts you on the radar for recruiters. So a way to brand yourself and to market yourself on LinkedIn is to do status updates. You know, just like on Facebook or on Twitter, you can share videos, links to articles, you can share quotes, all these type of things. So who has ever done an update on LinkedIn? Yeah, not so many. Okay. So I personally try to do 2 every day, 1 in the morning and 1 at lunchtime. I just share an article which I find interesting, and then people, they click like on it, or they write a comment and so on. And that way I have interactions happening on LinkedIn every day. I'll show you some examples of updates. So these are like funny ones. Well, see, I don't know if you think they're funny, but. So the top one there was done in, I did a workshop and I set a challenge. I said, okay, everybody has to do an update, and we see at the end of the workshop who gets the most likes. And so Amanda up there, she had over 400 at the end of the day. By the end of the week, she had something like 700 or 800 likes. And remember, every person on LinkedIn has an average of 60 connections. So when they click like, they share it into their network. So it multiplies every time. So if you come up with something clever, something inspirational, or something interesting, please share it on LinkedIn, because people love that interaction. Okay, so already talked about groups. These are the biggest groups, and I think I have the biggest in Peru, yes. These are the biggest groups in Peru, and I would suggest joining at least the top 2 or top 3. So the third one there is HR related, and I think, the first one is jobs related. So these groups are not so big. They're only about 20,000, the biggest one there. But it's still worth joining them. So I would recommend joining some of the biggest Peruvian groups, but then also joining the big groups, the linked HR and so on. But also joining perhaps some niche groups. So groups which are related to exactly what you do. So if it's procurement, or if it's higher education, etc. And all groups have statistics like these. So just like I was looking at, if you go, so if you go to any group and you're thinking, should I join this group? Does it look interesting? Just scroll down and look there, insightful statistics. And it will tell you how many people are in the group. It will also give you demographics. And so I can see location, for instance. So a lot of people in India and in the US in this group. But I can see seniority and all these things, which can be interesting, just to judge the group, to see if it's really good or if it's just full of spammers. Company pages. I'm coming to the end of the presentation now. Company pages, do you follow any companies on LinkedIn? Yeah? Okay, so when you follow companies, you can get updates that they make. So this is Unilever, I think I have it on here. Actually, yeah, here's the Pacifico University. So I can click follow there, and I will then get that into my stream. And if you go on to companies like that, and here I get updates from all the companies that which I clicked follow on. So like L'Oreal, Hayes, Selic, Salesforce, LinkedIn themselves, etc. And I think it's interesting. That's my company, Link Humans. So I think it's interesting to have a look and see what type of updates these companies are doing, because they talk about new products, innovations, but they also talk about jobs. And they say, now we're hiring this, now we're hiring that. So it's a good way to stay close to companies. And for them, they put you into their talent network. And so let's have a look at, what's it, Sab Miller. Every company.
They know if you follow them?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they can see that. So here is Sab Miller again. So that's the company we can follow and so on. We can also look at, some companies have added their products on there. Not so many on here. Peroni, Miller Genuine Draft. If we look at maybe IBM, for instance, they have hundreds of products listed. If we look at careers, it's like going onto their website. It's like a mini career website on LinkedIn. We can see some of their brands, what it's like to work at Sab Miller, and of course we can see jobs. So this is their employer branding, basically.
There's a huge...
But if I'm interested in jobs, I'll just have a click there. And then you can look at it there. I like the actual job search process on LinkedIn, because if I want to apply to this job here, I can see who has posted it. So it's this person here, Malika Haynes. So that, to me, gives me some sort of accountability. When it's just on a corporate website, or if it's on a job board, like Monster, for instance, it normally doesn't say a name. But here it says, I know exactly who's posted it, and I know who they are. So instead of sending the CV off, what you can do is connect with this person first. Ask some questions and say, so you're looking for a senior or an intermediate type of procurement manager? Okay, what languages, blah, blah, blah. So get to know them a little bit. And also you can see here who you are connected with in common. So I have 67 people that can refer me to that woman up there. That's really powerful, because then I could say, and normally it's just one or two people we have in common, but I know some people at Sab Miller, so I have a head start here, but normally it's one or two, and then you can say, I see we know such and such, let's have a conversation and so on, which is much more powerful than just sending off a CV. So jobs are all on there. Just click jobs and scroll through. There's also a news section, which I think you've probably seen, everyone's seen it, which I think is pretty good. Like I said earlier about status updates, sometimes it's hard to think about what content to share on LinkedIn. Same thing for Twitter and other places. But you can click on the news section, bless you, and it gives you a nice cross-section of articles. And normally these articles would be very popular. You can see other people who have already shared them. So if you then share it, you are, I wouldn't say guaranteed, but it's more likely that people will like them. If we click on procurement as a skill, we get this screen. And basically it gives us a snapshot of what procurement is all about, and also gives us an idea of procurement professionals. So what good profiles look like for procurement people. It also tells us what companies have procurement people in it. So these companies here, where are these people based here? And also, what are the big groups related to procurement? So our friend, the regional director, he's probably a member of a couple of these groups here. And remember, I talked about keywords earlier on profiles. This section can give you lots of ideas about keywords. So if you look on the left there, you see synonyms and sub keywords inside the area of procurement. So that's procurement, but it could be, accounting, and that gives us the equivalent for accounting and the related companies which we're all familiar with and so on. So that's another really useful place to have a look in and to learn more about other people. Okay, so that was the last slide I had. Your action points are to, first of all, tidy up your profile, make your profile look compelling, have a good photo, get all those keywords in. Number 2 is to connect more. Remember, the more people you connect with, the more people can find you, and the more value you will get out of LinkedIn. Join groups, join the big groups, join the Peru groups, and join the niche groups, the specialist groups for what you do, so like procurement professionals. Do your status updates. So I would try to maybe do, for this week, try to do 1 status update and see what happens. And hopefully people will like it, and then you'll do another one. But if you has no reaction, don't worry. It happens. Just do another status update, and sooner or later people will comment and so on. Search. Remember, click the advanced button. I think, is it in Spanish, avanzada? Avanzada. Click on there, and then just pull up the search and go, what do I need today? HR people, headhunters in Peru, and from there you can then approach them, send them an invite, just say you want to have a coffee, you want to network, and so on. Questions? Yes. No, not to my knowledge, no. Say again, maximum?
Maximum of connections you can have. Like, for example,
yes.
You have like 5,000 friends you can have?
Yes, 30,000 is the maximum of connections.
30,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yes?
How do you can set your profile in more than one language in order that people in the States can look for you in English?
Yes. Okay. So.
So as Romulo.
I have not done it myself, so Romulus can answer this. But I believe it is. Go into. Okay. Well, I know you can do it, but I've never done it myself, so I don't know exactly where it is. But we can find it later. Yeah. It's you guys have done it, so it's definitely doable. More questions? Yes.
What about the amount of information there, Jürgen? Because you show us the warm or heat parts, no, the headline picture, but about the information, there is a discussion about put all what you have on your resume, and that's maybe 1 or 2 pages of information, because you have the keywords and it will be easier to find you, or people want to see what you have done. But other people believe that no, just put your position, 1 line I was responsible of, and that's it, because that creates some curiosity, and they will contact you and to see and to look more about you. What's your view on this?
I personally, I say less is more. So I want to keep it simple. I like maybe it's just some bullet points and not so much text. If you want to put more information on, then I say put video or images or something else. So yeah, I think a resume is sometimes it's just 1 page or 2 pages, whereas a CV can be much longer. So I think a resume is the better option to think of the length of your LinkedIn profile. But you could even have it shorter than the resume.
Okay, but if in Peru is usually, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 pages, that would be, in your opinion, that would be fine to make copy paste or maybe change something and put it over there? I
think so, as long as it looks okay. So let's say you've had 5 jobs, each job maybe 1 sentence about it, perhaps a couple of bullet points about achievements, that's it, next job, next job. So you shouldn't write War and Peace about each job.
Right. Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah, we're talking about recruitment, human resources, teaming up for different purposes. What other useful uses can you find for LinkedIn? Or what is it mostly used other than recruitment or something like similar to that?
Yeah, okay, great question. So I would say the big, so recruitment is probably the #1 usage, either finding people or finding a job. But #2 would be B2B sales. So B2B, business to business sales and marketing. So any company that sells services, that sells big computer systems, high value products and so on, that will work really well on LinkedIn. So for my company, for instance, we use LinkedIn extensively just for marketing. We have a couple of groups, just to have discussions. We have the company page, and we have our individual profiles where we put out new content every day. And people they comment back and they contact us and they say, okay, yeah, looks interesting. Can we have a chat about some consulting work and so on? So it's fantastic for B2B sales and marketing. It's not good for B2C, for instance. So if you're selling consumer products, groceries or I don't know, bottled water and so on, it's not going to work. That's Facebook. But B2B, LinkedIn is perfect.
Thank you.
There was another one.
Accept your invitation because they said no, sorry, but the group is full. Does that happen?
I don't think the group is full. It's more, maybe that's what they tell you, but but yeah, sometimes they don't let you in, and it's especially when it's an exclusive group. Yeah, it could be that it's a real club where you have a membership, you have to pay for it, and then they only let people in who have the membership number and so on. That happens. So very closed groups. But there is no limitation for the group. It can be as big as they like. But I know some groups which are for professionals, so like a procurement group, for instance, sometimes they have problems with too many recruiters coming into the group. So recruiters, they come into the group and they just post jobs, and they headhunt and so on. And that way they kill the friendly atmosphere in there. It should be about procurement professionals exchanging information and becoming better at their jobs and so on, and not just hungry recruiters. So that's why I think some of the group moderators they're a little bit careful about who they let into groups. And if you have any follow-up questions, then well, you just send them over on LinkedIn, and I will share this presentation as well with Karen, and she will. You can send the link maybe, email or something. Yeah, in the group, perfect. Yeah, so if you have any further questions, let me know, and I will also be here for the next 10-15 minutes if you have any questions right now. So thank you very much for your time. my first question is everyone from Peru? Is anyone not from Peru? I am not from Peru, so, okay, a handful of people. Who wants to work outside of Peru? Okay, quite a lot of people. Good. LinkedIn experience. Who would say that they are an expert on using LinkedIn? No? Yes? So, a couple of experts. Who is intermediate? And who is an absolute beginner? Okay. Who has no LinkedIn account? Okay. So one person. Great. So if we look at social media, the bigger picture, this is a graph which I found this morning, actually, which is brand new. And it's very, very hard to see here, but it talks about all the social networks which are available. And nowadays, there are over 1,000, well, more than 1,000 social networks. Everything from Facebook to Pinterest to Twitter to Flickr to YouTube, etc. But if we look at career and business, LinkedIn is definitely the number one, the number one network which we should look at. And I think LinkedIn is. So that's the landscape. And if we look at social media for job search, nowadays, these are stats from the US, from Estados Unidos, which is always a pioneering country when it comes to, which is, that's what we do. We're consultants and trainers based in the UK. And finally, we are also official partners with LinkedIn. So we help LinkedIn to do consulting and training. So hopefully I will have some insider knowledge for you today. Yeah, those are some of the clients that we work with. Some of these companies might be familiar to you, some may not. But in general, we work with large international corporations. Okay, so I want to understand about you, the audience. So hands up, who is still a student currently? Okay, so about 30%. So who is an alumnus? So that will be the rest. Okay. And who is not a student or alumni? Yeah? So what do you do then? Something else? Okay. Are you happy in your job? Yeah? Who wants a new job? Yeah? Okay. So Karen was telling me earlier that a lot of professionals in Lima, they want new jobs because it's very competitive out there, and everyone wants to strive to the top. So I think it's healthy to always look at the next job and to always look after your career. So don't blame you. And if you feel that you want to ask a question, you have two options. You can either write down questions on, I think you were handed pieces of paper to write questions on, or just put your hand up and ask the question. I'm very happy for you to ask questions whilst I'm talking. And feel free to ask a question in English or in Spanish, because I have this headset here, so the interpreter will interpret from Spanish to English for me. Okay. Right, so that's me. And I was a recruiter for 7 years, recruiting IT experts, based in London, but recruiting people all over Europe. So recruiting SAP specialists, SAP experts. And in that job, I was a headhunter there. In that job, we used to use social media very extensively, and in particular, LinkedIn. So we used LinkedIn to find new candidates and also to find clients and to match the two, because as a headhunter, when you find the match, that's when you get paid. So that's what we did extensively at that company. I started, in my last year as a recruiter, I started writing a blog called The Undercover Recruiter. And that blog is still going, and it's the #1 recruiting blog in Europe. And after starting that blog, companies started contacting me saying, oh, can you help us to recruit? Can you help us to use social media, to do employer branding and so on? And so we started a company called Link Human.
Maximizing LinkedIn and Social Media for Your Brand, a cargo de Jorgen Sandberg, experto en reclutamiento a través de redes sociales. Jorgen es la segunda vez que visita la Universidad del Pacífico. En esta oportunidad ha venido a dictar unos talleres especializados en reclutamiento a través de redes sociales, ayer martes y hoy miércoles en la mañana. Han venido cerca de 18 empresas de distintos rubros, de minería, de banca, de construcción, consumo masivo e incluso algunos headhunters a capacitarse. Muy interesante ver que además de LinkedIn usan otras redes sociales como Facebook o Twitter para reclutar. Y bueno, en esta conferencia puntualmente él va a hablar de cómo podemos usar las redes para mejorar nuestra visibilidad en el mercado laboral y también como una herramienta para gestionar nuestro marketing personal. Entonces, damos inicio a la conferencia. Los dejo con el experto en LinkedIn, Jorgen Sandberg.
Thank you, Karen, and welcome to this evening's talk about LinkedIn. So my name is Jorgen, and I will be talking to you for about an hour and a half about using LinkedIn for job search and career management. Obviously, I am speaking English, and I know some of you will be listening to this in Spanish. To social media. But if you look here, because so many people use social media nowadays, it's only natural for them to use social media for job search. They use it for looking for friends. They use it for maybe looking at education, looking at what to do on the weekend, and they look at jobs. So it's a natural part of what we do every day. And that's why social media is useful. And if we look at social recruiting, so when earlier today I was working with, training recruiters, HR people here in Lima, and all of them use LinkedIn, for instance. Most of them use Twitter or Facebook for recruiting purposes as well. These are the stats from a big survey called, the company is called JobVite. They look at 500 corporations around the world and look at if they use social media for recruitment purposes. And every year, the number goes up. So last year it was 93%, I believe, 92. And we have not got the stats for this year yet, but I would not be surprised if it's 95% or even closer to 100%. And obviously these are the top networks. Again, that emphasizes how important LinkedIn is compared to the others. When we look at recruiting, LinkedIn is useful for most type of recruiting. Facebook is useful for what they call campus recruiting, so hiring graduates, so young professionals. So perhaps if you're an MBA, you're probably one step above that already.